Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. It's a beautiful day here in Colorado. So I live in near Boulder in Lafayette, Colorado, and so yeah, it's going to be a nice warm day today, and we'll be able to get outside, which will be nice for a nice walk. So one thing I do want to ask is everybody make sure that you muted your phone so that or mute your mute everything so that we don't get a lot of feedback. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I will try to get to all of them as we get kicking here. Let's see. And so USA Triathlon jump on. Did you guys want to say anything before we get started?
Nope. You can go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. So again, I thank USAT for getting this opportunity. I know that times are really difficult right now for everybody. I'm stuck at home, as is pretty much everybody well, as are many people here in Colorado. We just issued another or a stay-at-home message for the counties in around the Denver metro area. So it's serious, it's real. Please do what you can to stay home. Please, do what you can to prevent this from spreading. So what I wanted to talk about and what USAT reached out to me about is that they want to, one of the things that we need to do as a group of athletes, we still need to stay active. Being active is good for the immune system, is good for stress relief. It's just all around good. So, but with many of our gyms closed now and our recreation centers and closed, what we wanted to do is provide an understanding of how to train at home for triathlon. If you've been around the sport for a really long time, you've probably devised that. You have an understanding of how to train at home. But if you haven't been around the sport or you're relatively new to the sport, it may not you may not have a good grasp on what things you can do at home, what tools you'll need, what other things that you'll need in order to work out at home. So I did this with I did this quick webinar last week already with a much smaller group of folks who are beginners, just to say, here's everything that I've accumulated over the years of my racing and years of me coaching, and here's what you need to, maintain some level of effectiveness at home and maintain some semblance of training. When this does subside, and it will subside, maybe it's nice for us to still be race ready or still be able to compete in a race at some point. So we don't want to just scrap training altogether. So I've come up with a few things on what I've accumulated, and we're just kind of going to go through that. Just a train at home 101. What things can you do? What things do you need? So here we go. And we're going to do it in our standard swim, bike, run order. So it's going to be pretty awesome. All right. So the first thing everybody wants to know, the first thing to close around here in Colorado was the pools. And so everybody wants to know, what do I do at home for swim workouts? Well, that one's hard. That one is by far the hardest. We obviously, being in the water and having the body balance and body position and breathing and everything that is associated with the swim is really difficult to replicate unless you buy a VASA trainer for, oh boy, I think those things are $2,500 and they're very, very, very utilitarian. It's the only thing that you can do with the VASA trainer is train for the swim. So I wouldn't, if sans that, again, if we don't have millions of dollars in hanging around and we don't buy all the equipment, then what can we do? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of share my screen here with you guys. Let me do that. So one of the things that I have found that is a really good deal and to have handy are stretch cords. So these are inexpensive stretch cords. They come in various resistances, and you can really replicate a lot of things with the swim stroke. And now more than ever is a good idea for you to focus on good proper catch and pull mechanics. So one of those things is using stretch cords. So you can see that this person here just is standing with the stretch cord. These are basic strength exercises, but you can hang these over a door or hang these over some other sturdy object, and you can focus on catch and pull mechanics. Again, we're trying to get our hand elevated and pull against that resistance. So these are an option, and they're about $15 a piece. So you choose your weight. They come in 3 different weights. So you can get all 3 for about $45 or so if you want to practice all 3 weights. Again, it's an inexpensive option for you to focus on the swim. If you do a workout for half an hour focusing on catch and pull mechanics with stretch cords, you'll definitely feel the muscular response of the exercise. And then when the pools do finally reopen, at least you'll have the muscular component there. You may not have the muscular endurance component, which from swimming yards and yards and yards, but you will at least have the muscular strength there. So I have, didn't buy this brand. This is just Stretch Cords brand, but you can find something probably on Amazon for in and around the same price. It doesn't have to be expensive. So don't, go out spending hundreds of dollars on these things. You can get all kinds of different options if you'd like, but it can be cheap. It can even be as cheap as this, kind of a build your own thing. So you can buy this tubing in bulk and build your own. I've got a little door hanger on it already, so I can just pull this over the door, and then I can do catch and pull mechanics with this. I have 2 different resistance settings as well. So this is red, I have blue one, which is really difficult. But those kinds of things can work for you, again, just to maintain that muscular strength component and give you a little bit of proprioception as well, to get the feel of what it's like to have that nice high elbow. As you kind of work and you pull through, right? As we pull through and pull all the way down, what that feels like, so that you can try to replicate that in the water once you're able to get back in. Other things that are good things to have, good toys to have, potentially is a medicine ball. So medicine ball is another toy that you can kind of keep. This one here is, I have a 10-pound medicine ball. You can do some strength workouts. Again, any of the exercises that you do body weight wise are enhanced with something with resistance. So of course this provides you some weight resistance. So this is 10 pounds. You can do ball slams and help get your muscular strength that way, or you certainly do core work with it. So again, something to kind of bide your time while we sit at home. And then just standard for the swim, body weight exercises. We can do body weight exercises all day long, and we will all be better for it. We don't do enough we don't do enough strength training as triathletes. As a whole, as a community, we don't do enough strength training. So now is the time to do push-ups and do body weight squats. Do hundreds of body weight squats. Note that you have to do 100 in a day. That's a great exercise, and it's a great way to kind of stay active and help yourself along when this thing is over. Push-ups are the same way. Just standard push-ups. You can do push-ups on your knees as well if you need to take a little bit of the weight off, but push-ups, do push-ups, and things of that nature. Okay, so from the swim perspective, that's really about it from that. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to type them in the chat dialogue. So, all right. So I'll move on to the bike here. Sans any questions. So, all right. So beginner triathletes, the first thing that they tend to want to get, obviously, is they'll need a bike. But then they start seeing the add-ons, and part of the add-ons are sort of a rite of passage is getting yourself a trainer. But if you search and scour the internet, everybody talks about smart trainers and everybody talks about other systems that are out there. And if you just do a Google search for smart trainers, the first thing that's going to pop up is probably Wahoo or TACX trainer. And it's gonna say it's about $1,000, and so that can be a little overwhelming for people. What I really want to show people is that trainers don't have to be expensive. Pre-smart trainers, almost every triathlete that I know of had a fluid trainer, and fluid trainers are about $140. Well, here's one for $130. This is bikenashbar.com. For $130. These things are practically bulletproof. You can take them anywhere. They're portable. They don't require electronics. The resistance on them is fantastic. Great road feel for, you'll hear that a lot by cyclists and triathletes in the community. Oh, it's got great road feel. What that really means is that when you have a nice smooth pedal stroke, you'll feel that the resistance of the trainer kind of works in your favor, as opposed to some of these magnetic trainers, which have they're more jerky. The resistances on a fluid trainer is directly proportional to the wheel speed. So if you shift into a more difficult gear, then you're pedaling against more resistance. I haven't found a triathlete that can put it in their biggest gear or their strongest gear and pedal against a fluid trainer for very long. Again, so you can use this for VO2 workouts. You can use this for building your high intensity stuff, or you can use this for just for a nice recovery ride, zone 2 rides. Again, all depending on the gear that you put your bike in will provide the resistance. So it's a fluid trainer. Again, most fluid trainers actually work with our wheel-on trainer. So what this does is your rear triangle, your skewer hooks into the components here, and then your rear tire touches this metal flywheel, and it turns that flywheel, and as fluid runs through the baffles there, it slows down. It's hydraulic fluid, so then as it continues through there, the faster the fluid is moving, the more resistance it provides. Again, it's a great tool. It's cheap comparatively, and I think everybody, no matter where you live, should always have a trainer. Whether it's $130 one or moving on up in price. So weather is never an excuse for when you have to get your ride in. So for some people, certainly here in Colorado, we deal with winters. So we can't ride outside, although there are people that ride outside. I live in Boulder County, and I've seen somebody ride every day on my way to and from work throughout this winter. So yeah, people do ride, but for the mere mortals of us, get a trainer and just ride inside. It's much more comfortable and for that matter, safer in a lot of cases. So yeah, your wheel attaches to here. You turn that flywheel. The major downside for wheel-on trainers, and we'll talk about this with actually a smart trainer here in a minute, is that this area gets hot. You can see the fins there. The fins are designed to kind of shed some heat, but they don't shed all heat. So it can destroy a rear tire pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, my rear tire right there on my wheel-on trainer is destroyed right now. I popped it this morning because of the workout that I did. So it's flat, and I'll show you guys maybe here in a second on how worn that tire is. And so that's a downside. You'll be going through tires relatively quickly, but again, I always, when I change out my tires yearly, which I tend to do, or depending on races, I'll always save my front tire and just put it in store it with me, so that when my bike does go on my trainer, I put the front tire from the last year onto my rear, and then I have a trash tire that I don't care, and just trash it. So so that works that way. All right, so that's a standard cheap trainer, $130. Get it on Bike Nash Bar. You might even be able to find them cheaper again on Amazon. But yeah, that's a good choice. So let's move on to some of these smart trainers. So what is a smart trainer? A smart trainer, just by definition, is a trainer that is controlled by some other source than directly by the speed of the wheel. So in this case, Kicker or Wahoo makes a smart trainer. Their most inexpensive smart trainer is this guy here, I believe. So this is a wheel-on trainer, but it's controlled electronically by an app. So there's a good chance for us to talk about things like Zwift or Trainer Road or Sufferfest or RGT. These different applications and these different trainers themselves, or I'm sorry, these different applications control the resistance of the trainer itself. So when it controls the resistance, that means that it can show you, like Zwift, it can show you going up a hill, and then of course that makes the resistance more difficult. You have to shift in order to make it easier. The other thing is that you can see your power outputs on screen, so it gives you an idea of how much power you're producing. So for those of you who aren't riding with power, it's a great opportunity to really understand what your power profile looks like. So that's a good idea as well. So this particular trainer here is a wheel-on trainer as well. So in this case, the same situation exists, where in order to get a wheel-on trainer, I'm sorry, the same situation exists in that it will wear out a rear tire over time. So have some spare rear tires in place. You can actually even buy a trainer-based rear tire, which is just a big old hunk of rubber, and it's super thick, and it's a slick, so there's no tread or anything on it. It's not designed to be ridden outside. It's really designed for your trainer, which will last a little bit longer. It's a good thing, and then you just take it off as you take your bike outside. So I also want to show, so the cheapest smart trainer that I've found is this one by Garmin, the TacX Smart Flow Smart Trainer. So it's about $370. Again, you can get into a smart trainer pretty easily, and it will integrate with those apps pretty well. That being said, some of the apps like Zwift will allow you to participate if you have a power meter, but it'll just it's not quite the same. You'll still move with people, and your power will be displayed. But if you're just riding against no resistance and you're producing 200 watts, then it's kind of not as realistic. So if you're into the realistic gaming feel of Zwift or Trainer Road or Sufferfest or any of those others, well, Zwift and Trainer Road primarily, then a smart trainer is the way to go. All right, so let's talk about the other end of it. If we go to let's see, just click on products here. The next size up is these trainers that are not wheel-on, right? So these are cassette-based trainers where what you do for your bike, let me just not add this to my cart. What you end up doing is you put a cassette. Let's see. You take a cassette and you put it on the corner there, and then you hook your entire bike to that. You take your rear wheel out and you put your bike and then put the rear triangle on here. So one of your skewers is on that side, one is on the other side, and now you're turning this flywheel using the cassette that you have supplied there. So the bonus here, the nice thing is that you are no longer needing to wear out your rear cassette, or I'm sorry, your rear tire. Instead, you're just using what's part of the trainer itself. These things are great. People use them quite often, use them quite a bit. There are studios that are kicking up all over the country, all over the world that have a bunch of these, and they ride together in cycling studios. They're truly fantastic. One downside I will say is that for anybody who does ride with power, and your power happens to be in your rear hub, like a power tap power meter that I've actually have on my bike, then the translation of power between the trainer and your actual power output from your power device is going to be different. So it doesn't quite translate very well between the kicker and what you do outside. So if you're setting FTP and you're setting training zones, then you probably need to have a training zone for both inside and outside, just so that you have a good understanding of what happens and how your body is going to respond inside and outside. And actually, for that matter, it's a good idea to have an inside and outside FTP test as well, just because you have there's other mechanics in there's other dynamics in play, like wind resistance and how how wind resistance affects your upper body, and how that changes your body position and how that applies to power. So so make sure that you have a good understanding of power differences between inside and outside. And in this particular case, if your power is coming from your rear hub, then certainly understand that. I've also had reports where folks, I have athletes who are training who don't have a rear hub power meter. They have a power meter that is obviously in their in either their crank arm or in their in the spider or other. Well, those are really the two. And they're obviously reporting differences because it's two different power meters, two different places, measuring power at two different locations. Of course, they're going to be different. So then they'll ask, which power do I use when I go outside? Well, you use the one that you can see when you're riding outside. So that's very important for those of you who train inside. And there's plenty of people who train inside predominantly. So if you train inside predominantly, understand your power numbers between the power meter that's on the bike and the power meter that is provided by the trainer. All right, so so this is the cheapest one that you can get into. Well, this is from Wahoo. This is the cheapest one that you can get into. TACX has one for let's see, I think they have one for around, there you go, $750. You can you go up in price from there. Wahoo has one that is, again, these are different features. They have different, they'll tell you what all the features are. So there's about one that's about $1,400, I believe, I'm sorry, $1,200. So $900. And then of course, if you just have money floating out of everywhere, then why not just buy the $3,500 kicker bike? TACX makes a bike as well. So it seems like these two are just competing. There's $3,200. And this trainer here is, I believe that their top of the line trainer is $1,400. So, all right. Very cool. So, all right, I just saw a question, but it wasn't for the group. All right, awesome. Okay. Other things that you need in your when you're doing power training and things like that. I'll just stop this for a second and kind of give you guys a quick view of my pain cave, I guess. It's like it's on a trainer. So I'm old school, so this thing is also bulletproof. I think I bought that thing in 2010. It's still going like a champ. It's a wheel-on trainer, but it is a smart trainer. So it's probably one of the very first wheel-on trainers, wheel-on smart trainers that ever really existed. So anyway, as we continue to talk about the bike, make sure you have a fan. It's fun to have a TV just to keep the boredom down. But if you have Zwift, I mean, you may not need a TV if you enjoy riding with folks. If you enjoy riding with folks and talking to folks and chatting while you're on Zwift, then it works perfectly. Okay, all right. So the other thing on the trainer itself is that I have it on a yoga mat. It's a giant sweat fest down here when I ride. If anybody's ever been to a spin studio, I mean, you see that I would create a puddle around my bike and during a 1 hour session. So even with a fan, I still sweat like gobs. So it's good to kind of soak up that. Yeah, it's a giant sweat fest for sure. Yeah, so I soak that up, and then that's just it keeps the carpet clean. Yes, it helps my wife out, makes her happy about that. So all right, so that is biking inside. All right, any other questions about cycling inside? All right, so let's move on then to running inside. All right, there are no options for running inside unless you have one of these treadmills, right? I didn't, when I became a triathlete, I didn't just go out and buy all this stuff. I've acquired it over the years of racing and years of coaching. Oh, there's a question. Let's see. Do you want to, let's see, it's Rosa Laura. Do you want to go off mute to ask the question, or do you want to just type it? Oh, she just bought a TacX Neo T2. Sweet.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so yeah, I just bought this TAC Neo T2,
Yep.
and when I connected to Swift, the problem is that I want to see on the Garmin the power on my stage, on my bike, right?
Oh, yep.
But it's not connecting. Do you know if it's possible to connect the Garmin to the stage and then Swift to the TAC, to the power meter to the TAC? I've been having so much trouble because I want to compare the power from the trainer to the stage. So when I go outside, I know if it's the same or not. And you know, because a lot of my clients, they do use those, you know, trainer. There's some of them, they have the Wahoo, some of them, they have the Cycle Hopes, and they use different power. They don't look at the power on the stage, on the bike actually. So it's different. The power on the trainer is always different than the power that we use outside on the bike. Yeah,
certainly. So, yeah, I think that there's definitely a way to do that. I do believe that stages. So your bike computer, whatever bike computer you're using, does need to hook up only to the power meter that is on the bike. So whether if it's a Stages power meter or if it's a whatever, on one of my other bikes I have a Quark power meter in the Spider. So right now, for example, on my setup, I have a PowerTap hub and I have a Garmin 1030, so that my PowerTap hub is talking to my Garmin, but is not talking to Zwift at all. As a matter of fact, I've shut that off so that because I have an ANT module on my computer, so I don't have it talk to Zwift at all. I've disconnected that so that Zwift is only reading from the trainer.
Yeah, so Swift is reading the power from the trainer.
Right.
But what about the Garmin?
The Garmin, I have my Garmin reading the power from my hub, not from the trainer.
Yeah, see, I cannot do that. I tried, I got the 510, I think, or the 520 Garmin. Okay. And I try to connect it to the stage, but it keep giving me the tack power. So I couldn't really read, the stage power.
Right. So one thing you might want to do is you might want to separate. You might want to separate out the take the bike outside away from the TACX trainer, so that you don't have two competing sources when it's doing a search.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, and take that outside. I had that same problem where I was trying to pair my power meter to two different bike computers, one my watch and then my 1030 as well, and I had the exact same problem. So take it outside, get them away from each other, and then connect them separately.
Okay, so it's possible. Okay, hopefully.
Yep, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It was also pointed out, question is the riser block. So my front wheel sits up on top of a riser block. That's a great point. You need one of those as well, because the rear wheel, as you can kind of see, sits higher than the bike itself, right? Because it's mounted inside of the trainer. So the riser block is required as well. So make sure that you buy one of those. It's cheap plastic. Back in the day, again, this is, circa 2005 when phone books were still out, you would just use a phone book to put your front wheel on. But now they make nice plastic hard shells of ones. It's a great option as well. All right, let's talk run while we're at it. Okay. So you can buy a treadmill. Treadmills are fine. They do their thing, and they're fine. I think people don't like treadmills. I think most runners hate them. Most runners think that they're called dreadmills. Totally understand. Not something that I use every day. I would rather run outside if I can. Now, in the situation that we are, most people are still allowed to run outside. I believe that there are certain cities in the U.S. that they're telling people not to go outside, just to not be outside for a run. That hasn't hit here in Colorado yet. They're still encouraging exercise, but maintaining your social distance of 6 feet or greater with everybody. I ran yesterday outside. It was easy to do to maintain my separation. But I would, again, I'm advising people to follow the guidance from CDC and from the World Health Organization, maintain your social distance. That being said, there's no reason we can't run outside. Again, it's weather dependent, but I really haven't found a really bad situation that I couldn't dress for to be outside. Here in Colorado, I ski and I snowboard, and if all else fails, I have at least that much gear that I can go out into that kind of a storm and still run. And usually I'm shedding layers by the time I'm done with that. So you can run outside. For most of us, we're in spring now. Weather is starting to warm up. Most of us in the U.S., we have here in Colorado, we have a storm coming this Friday, so it's going to be wet and sloppy outside. But wet and sloppy is just another way to get outside. It's just another layer of things that you're going to need. So whether you're wearing trail running shoes with thick wool socks and some mud protectors or some gaiters on, or you're just running in shorts and a t-shirt, it's really dependent, right? So other than that, if you really want to get into buying a treadmill, go online, do some research. Here's some real quick things that I had to consider. So I'm tall, I'm 6'3", and the basement that we were in my old house just had the 8-foot drop ceilings. So I had to consider deck height. So deck height was really important for me. So this is one of the ones that has a really low deck height, which was good. And then the other thing that I had to consider was deck length. So this has a relatively long deck length because I have a long stride. I have a 36-inch inseam, so I have to worry about that. So in this particular room, I don't know, it's not going to show, but I have a really short ceiling. It's kind of half. I have half of it is short ceiling because of all the ducting that's running. I'm in my basement, by the way. And then the other half is the normal 8-foot ceiling. So I had to be really cautious about that and where I place my treadmill. So, so those are the things to consider. Treadmills are about $1,000. Again, I didn't acquire my first one until I'd been racing for 10 years or so. And then I actually acquired it because as a coach, I wanted to be able to do some athlete testing in my basement and some video analysis. And so that was my reason for buying it, not for myself, of course. So obviously I use it all the time. My wife uses it all the time, and actually my kids are using it as well. So that's about it for running. Go outside if you can. If from a maintaining your health perspective or maintaining your race readiness, you might even go outside and go for a walk. Walks are actually very, very good. They're very therapeutic. It may help you recover. So if you have any injuries from the time that you were training a ton, now's the time to kind of work on those injuries and just go for a walk. A 30-minute walk or an hour-long walk can do wonders and still give you the muscular endurance that you're actually looking for. So it's not a bad deal at all. All right, the last thing that I really wanted to chat about was weights. We've already talked about body weight work and doing body weight work. So those are obviously options. So push-ups, sit-ups, core work. Oh, every triathlete has a weak core. So planks and side planks and those types of things are all awesome things to do. If you are feeling spunky and again you have money burning a hole in your pocket, then you can start acquiring weights, different types of weights or different types of weight systems. So I have, my wife bought me a TRX system, so everybody's familiar with this. I haven't hung it, we moved last year, I haven't hung it in here yet. But so, you know, a standard TRX system, and I'll show you online here what that looks like. The TRX isn't too expensive. Here, let's do this, share. It's about, let's see, where did it go? So it's about $180. It comes with this door hanger as well, so you don't have to necessarily mount it. So you don't have to put this behemoth of a bracket in your ceiling. At our old house, I did have it mounted, and I just haven't put it up again here. So yeah, that's a TRX system. Again, it's about 180 bucks. Comes with all those things. Comes with an app. As well. So if you're looking for a decent strength workout, then TRX provides that. Otherwise, just start acquiring different things. So on another Christmas or birthday, my wife bought me a weight bench, and so I have free weights and you know, a weight bench, so I can do body weight squats. I don't have the full rack, and then I also have dumbbells and a couple of sets of dumbbells. And again, that is more than enough for you to survive the next, you know, 2 months. Let's just say, you know, worst case scenario, the next couple of months of having to shelter in place. I think that you're going to be able to survive, and again, maintain that fitness and come out of this maybe even stronger than you were when you entered. So, so we can always be better, especially as triathletes, with weight exercises that we tend to shirk off because it's not swimming and it's not biking and it's not running, and therefore we think it's a waste of time. It's absolutely not. We absolutely should be lifting weights. So, and doing core work as well. So, that was really about all that I had. Do you guys have any questions? And feel free if you'd like to go off mute. I'm going to stop my share here so that everybody can see my smiling face. Wetsuits. What specifically do we want to talk about wetsuits? Well, I'll tell you what, while you're typing that, I'm going to show you one other toy that I have. So this is another inexpensive item that you can get. This is a pull-up bar. So again, body weight stuff. It hangs over your door jamb, and you can do all of your pull-ups and body weight stuff there. It's great. Again, that's inexpensive. I think it's about $40. I haven't looked it up in a long time, but it's decent. Do I have specific dry land routines for stretch cords? Yes and no. I do. I do. They're pretty extensive, but I will tell you that what I've done with my athletes, US Masters Swim actually has is a great resource for dry land exercises. And so I use their dry land workout. They have two ones that are a great circuit that you can use with cords. It's phenomenal. So I would absolutely check that out. And as a matter of fact, it includes body weight stuff too. So it's great. Yeah, and actually that's another good point. So from John. So these webinars, or we won't even call them, let's just call them big old group chats, this was the at-home training 101. Next week, I believe, next week we're going to have biking. So now you know what to go buy. Sorry, you're going to have to buy something. Now you know what to go buy. Join us next week at the same time, so 10 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time, 9 Pacific, noon Eastern, and join us for a ride. So I believe that's being led by Chris Swarthout, right? So yeah, come on back. Anyway, yeah, we absolutely, we plan to keep this up for a while. Stay motivated. All right, so it's hard. So the question is how do you stay motivated when the daily grind becomes difficult all alone? Man, it's hard. But let me tell you, I will say that trying to maintain your normal routine is absolutely important. So I was swimming 3 days a week with my master's group, and I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was in the pool by 5:45. It was very, very, very important that I keep that up. So this morning is a Wednesday. I would have gotten up and swam, but I got up at 5 o'clock, like my normal time, and I was on my trainer by 5:30. And so, so I'm maintaining my routine. I have to. If I don't, then I'm really going to have. Then I'm really struggling. So so that's about the best advice that I can give for that. That's one piece of advice. The other things that I would say is reach out to friends, reach out to fellow athletes. Join us next Wednesday for a group ride session. Start thinking about reaching out to other folks and joining other folks in things. I tell you what. So if you do a 5 p.m. ride and you get done 5 p.m., 1 hour ride, everybody gets on Zoom, make sure you have post ride, beverages too, just make sure it's a happy hour as well. So those are different things, but trying to maintain your routine, one, and then try to do it with others as you can. This is actually an opportunity as well that if you have friends out there that aren't the same speed as you, so maybe you have friends who are a rocket on the bike. Well, that doesn't, now you guys can actually ride together, right? You can put in the same time, but obviously be riding at different intensities. So it's an actual opportunity to reach out with teammates and club and friends who you normally wouldn't go on a group ride with, and ride with them. So so yeah, that's an option as well. So, all right. Other questions. What exercises do you suggest with the TRX straps? There are so many options. Yes, no doubt. So again, so if we think from a TRX perspective, I like a lot of the shoulder and back exercises and chest exercises for swimming. So there are some even so one arm push-ups. You do just one arm. They do another one where you're just kind of pulling yourself and letting yourself down like this, where you're holding the straps up here. The straps are behind you. Those are great for exercising your shoulders and back. And there's another one where you just stretch yourself out like this, where you're kind of pulling against the strap is that over there, and you pull yourself forward and back. And then you can do things like one-legged squats, so pistol squats with the TRX for leg strength, and doing a lot of those. So there are a ton. If you do get a TRX, it gives you a subscription as well to, I believe, to their TRX site, and you can use. There are athletes. There are various athlete workouts, but ones that match kind of the triathlete style. Look at some of those, and they'll have the whole thing of what to do. And it's usually, I mean, you can pick an hour-long routine, and you're pretty waxed by the end. So it's not a easy workout. It's not just a simple body weight workout. It's full on. So that's a great question. All right, and then let's see. We skipped the wetsuit question, but I want to make sure. Motivated wetsuits. So Carolyn, I didn't. You kind of asked this question about whether you want to discuss wetsuits. I didn't see a specific question, but wetsuits, sure. Let's talk about wetsuits. There's so many different options. The hardest problem with wetsuits is that many stores, you're not going to find a place that's going to sell a bunch of wetsuits unless you live in some of the coastal areas that have big triathlon shops. Just do a bunch of research, I guess. Yeah, wetsuits are really hard. They're very personal. It's hard to say, hey, go out and buy an Xterra wetsuit because it's the best one on the planet, because they're very different for very different people. So it's really difficult to make a decision. I've only ever tried 2 brands of wetsuits, so that's my limited experience. I've been racing for 20 years or 17 years. Yeah, so it's super difficult to do that. It's like a pair of shoes, right? Everybody has their it'd be the same question if you asked me, what are the best running shoes? I have my opinions, obviously, but that doesn't mean anything to anybody. So sorry, couldn't help you there. All right, any other questions? We have a few more minutes left. Does anybody want me to look at anything else? Other toys that I have in this room? Oh, yeah, why don't we talk about stretching and all of the other things that we can do in our pain cave. So it's a good time to start stretching and entering and getting a stretching routine put together. Stretching is important. Doing some of the doing foam rolling and really getting your body aligned and things like that is absolutely important. It's for injury prevention. It's for just feeling better and feeling good. So of course down here I have a foam roller. I have other devices. Oh, I might as well show this too. A Swiss ball. Get a Swiss ball. We just switched rooms, by the way. My pain cave just switched last Saturday, so I haven't had a chance to fully get all of my toys pulled back up. And that also shows, by the way, I haven't done any core work for a while. Sorry. All right. Are we familiar with any colleges that have a good triathlon program in or around Colorado, absolutely. So both CSU, Colorado State University up in Fort Collins, and CU Boulder here close to Boulder have great triathlon programs. They have club programs specifically, so they're not part of the NCAA varsity sport. Now there's at least one college that I know of that is attempting to become a varsity sport. So that is ongoing here. So, oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I made that. That's right. Colorado Mesa is a NCAA program out in Grand Junction, right? Sorry. Thank you for that. I did forget about that. So that's awesome. Yeah, and the Air Force Academy as well down in Colorado Springs has a tri team as well, but they have a tri team, but again, they're not part of the varsity program yet. They compete as an NCAA club. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, I remember seeing the press release about Colorado Mesa State. I was really excited. I have friends that live out in Grand Junction, so I was thinking about, hey, I should move out there. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions? So I'll give you guys, while I'm at it, just let's get the 365 degree or 360 degree view of my pain cave. There's my treadmill. There's my weight bench with the TV. You need your TV, right? For your bike, it's probably a good idea to have a table as well. So this is actually all my athlete testing supplies are in there, but it also works as my table where my laptop goes. So that when I'm riding and plugged into Zwift, that's how it works. Oh, by the way, so the newer smart trainers use Bluetooth as their control mechanism, which is fantastic. Back in the day when CompuTrainer came out, they didn't have Bluetooth, right? So this is still plugged in by a USB, and actually up until probably 10 years ago, it was still a serial connection. So if everybody remembers 9-pin serial. So, all right. Questions on tibia stress fracture recovery? Yes, recover. Do not go too early, too soon. Too many people go try to come back too fast. Listen to your PT or your doc on that, on when to come back. But that being said, it's a perfect opportunity for you to still do strength exercises with your upper body, right? So you can do some of those dryland workouts specifically that are upper body and non-weight bearing exercises, and still you can even get some of the cardio benefit from doing some of those exercises as well. So hopefully that heals up for you soon. Stress fractures are really bad. And they're insidious because you'll feel good, but it's still there. And so it's very, very easy for you to re-aggravate it because you felt good. So listen to your PT, listen to your doctor, and don't start back too soon. So so is it okay to ride and ride the tri bike during that time? I would ask your PT, ask your doctor. I'm neither of those, and so I really it's probably a good question for them. Movies. Oh, that is a great question. Okay, so movies and shows and music and podcasts and stuff like that. So, oh boy, USAT did not throw me a softball on that question, did they? So movies, I like laughing, so I will always watch a funny movie. So I'm redoing all my funny movies. So things like The Sandlot and and Spaceballs is a fantastic movie for me. There's nothing that I watch that's tri-specific, I would say. So I don't get the fun of like watching Kona or things like that. I mean, it's great. I do watch it every year, but I don't rewatch it or think to myself that was epic. I will listen to podcasts. From a podcast perspective, I like The Move with Lance Armstrong. I think Lance is very unadulterated, and it's fun to listen to, especially when he does the tour and any of the other things. Let's see. Shows. I just catch up on all of my recorded shows. Again, I'm not a big TV watcher or a movie watcher. I just watch whatever's on. I do watch mostly over the air TV, so the main channels. But I should probably go back through some of my favorites. Was always The Big Bang Theory. So yeah, I'm a nerd, and so I love that stuff. Yeah, that's about it. The other thing that's somewhat insidious about shows is that you know how long they are. So, for example, you know that if you fast forward through all the commercials, a 30-minute show is about 20 minutes, and you're like, dang it, we're coming in, you know. And so when you're done with the one show, you're like, oh, that was only 20 minutes. I was supposed to put in a 1 hour workout. Well, I got to watch 2 more of those to get through. So if you only have one show in your queue, then you kind of mess yourself up a little bit. So I would suggest I would make a suggestion that once you've committed yourself, like, okay, I'm going to ride or I'm going to run and I'm going to do it for X amount of time, line up all your shows so that you don't have to think, and you don't have to sit there and try to scroll through while you're in the middle of a hard interval trying to scroll through what the next channel is or what the next show is. So get it all lined up early. But that's a great question. All right. All right, we got about 4 minutes left, so please feel free to ask another question. There's nothing else I can really show you down here. It's kind of, like I said, trashed a little bit, but I'm feeling good that we moved rooms. Oh, that's another good one. Advice for an athlete whose race has been canceled or postponed. Wow, that's yeah. So I'm dealing with that right now. I've got athletes whose races have been canceled. I have athletes whose races are pending, meaning that there's a good chance that it'll be canceled, but there's not a lot of communication coming out. So if your race, let's say you have a race in June. And we'll take this about a little different way. So if you have a race in June and it's been postponed to say September, then what you need to do if you're under a training plan or something like that is revert to where you were 3 months ago. So if it's being postponed by 3 months, then revert to your training that you were 3 months ago. A lot of people, we don't want to peak. One thing you don't want to do is peak for a June race in April, end of April, early May, to only come off of that and then try to re-peak again. So that's more difficult. So now's the time to kind of revert back. I hate that. Revert to where you were 3 months ago if you know that that's the length of the postponement. A lot of people are just doing base phase training or reverting to base phase training. That's a great idea, just as we get through this, just to revert to that again and then try to peak out for your other race. So how do you rewind to where you were 3 months ago without a pool? Well, same thing applies there without a pool. So we have to make substitutions for what we would have done in the pool. So that's where we do strength training or stretch cord based workouts for the pool, but you can certainly do that with your bike and run, right? So you can still do that. and you can still kind of maintain that cardio balance. So for those of you who use Training Peaks and things like that, think about your chronic training load, and if it's at that peak, think about 3 months ago where that was, and you kind of work your way a little bit back down, or kind of reset to those values, so that we can kind of get our hormone levels and everything back down, so that then we can peak again later. There was a great YouTube video on GCN, so the Global Cycling Network, that just came out, I believe, over the weekend, that describes a lot of that. Obviously, it has a cycling slant to it, which is fine, but it all makes sense, and it's all kind of the same value. If your race is postponed, then revert down to where it was. If it's been canceled, then you're in off season. Then jump in off season, and then look to the August, September, October timeframe if you want to pick up a race during that time. So I have an athlete who was going to do an 18-hour race in May. That's been canceled. So and then he has an Xterra race in July, and that's questionable right now. So we're keeping him sort of on the trajectory to peak for Xterra in Beaver Creek in July. But as soon as we hear something otherwise, we have to keep him ready to go for that Xterra. And then after that Xterra, he's going back to mountain bike racing, or we have the Pikes Peak Apex. So he has a 4-day stage race. So after the Xterra, we were going to eliminate the swim and the swim and run totally. So right now we're still planning for his Xterra until we hear otherwise, and then as soon as we hear otherwise, then we will modify his training so that he can move towards his bike race later in the season. We've also discussed with athletes, okay, if July is out, you might cancel that race. You might pick up a race in August just to be race ready. I have another athlete that I haven't heard anything for Ironman Santa Rosa yet, but that seems questionable. So we still have to we still have to be on the trajectory to peak for that race. Another one that's in question is Tulsa. So Tulsa is the end of May, the new Ironman there, and I've had to communicate with my athletes, like, we still have to do this, we still have to do work. But let's try to make sure that we're on trajectory in case it does go. If it doesn't go or is postponed, then we'll make actions then. So hopefully that answers the question. It was a good question. It was a long-winded answer. I apologize. So, alrighty. Hopefully everybody's gotten some stuff out of that. I've seen people have dropped off. I am around. Feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Instagram. You can reach out to me on Facebook. It's Tri Coach Colorado on both Instagram and Facebook. And if you have any other questions, please let me know. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Justin. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to